Welcome to the Culture Shock Podcast on the Dynasty DNA Podcasting Network, where Big Culture Bob breaks down the 5 things that stood out this week in the NFL, the good, the bad, and the ugly of NFL and Dynasty Fantasy Football topics every week. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. And here is your Culture Shock host, TJ Blake.
Welcome back, DNA Strand crew, to the newest episode of the Culture Shock here on the Dynasty DNA Podcasting Network. I'm your host, TJ Blake. You can follow me over on X at FFTJBlakeDNA. And as always, for the Culture Shock, we're joined by the one called Big Culture Bob Helfert. You can follow him over on X at BiggieFatBob. Bob, a lot going on during this past week of preseason. Some good stuff to talk about. I'm sure some negatives too, but we figured we'd be a little bit more positive today with today's show. Not a ton of starters played, so going to be talking about some young players here today, Bob. Are you ready? Because we are getting closer and closer to week 1 NFL kickoff.
I'm much more prepared for week 1 than I am this podcast, but I'll make sure that we talk about players.
All right. I know you're always ready to go. And like I said, I always say, don't threaten me with a good time. So,
That's right.
I always could throw some kind of topics at you and we could jump right into it. I know you have some disdain for this class, Bob, but again, we got to give some props where props are due. I mean, it is preseason. We got to keep it in perspective. We're not going to be some of them people that take it overboard. But when you have to give some flowers out, we could give some flowers out. So let's talk some young players that caught your eye and played well during this first week of preseason, Bob. Let's just get right into it. Player 1 that you want to talk about here, who do we have?
The one guy that I hope that we can hold the presses on, but he had an impressive game, was this Camden Brown, undrafted free agent or whatever for the Dallas Cowboys. Now, the word on the street is they're still looking for their wide receiver 3. A lot of people aren't in belief that Flournoy is the guy. He may or may not be. Obviously, when he played last year, when one of the two guys were out, he played pretty well. And I don't want to get into a crazy amount of diatribe about it because he is undrafted. Who knows if the guy's going to be successful? If he sticks with this team, I think it's a telltale sign. Unless I missed the news, I don't believe George Pickens has signed an extension. You know what I mean? He's just on a 1-year deal. So the wide receiver 2 and 3 for the next year is still kind of up in the air, right? So it could end up being a Flournoy or this Camden Brown type. But what I wanted to say is these are the guys that I almost just I see it pops. And I mean, first off, you got to give the guy some credit. He did catch a touchdown pass from Joe Milton, which means that he was probably 27 yards away from the ball and managed to get to it. I have no idea how that's even possible, but he caught a pass from Joe Milton, which is impressive within itself. So 3 catches for 62 yards and the 2 TDs. It's impressive for a guy that's just out there for his first time, whatever the case may be. But it's one of those things where I'm like, hey, look, if you've got a super deep roster, blah, 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 and you're a Cowboys fan, I'm not going to fault you for trying to grab the guy. But if you're a normal dynasty player, and if you got space and your wide receiver room's a little iffy for the next couple of years, or you have really old guys, sure, take a stab at it if you want. Maybe he does something in the season where you could sell right away. But I kind of wanted to push the guys I think that are going to end up being kind of all hype all the way down to guys that I think we should be really paying attention to in these 5 characters.
Absolutely. But, Bob, I'm glad that you brought this kid up because it was an impressive performance, right? Now, it does warm my heart when I see these, undrafted, super late round guys do well. Everyone loves a good story, just like I do, right? But, it's one of them things, and I agree with what you said. I think on your whole monologue there when you were talking about this, I think one thing that rings true is if you have the space, right, if you have the roster space, go ahead and add them. You get into these situations, though, where you get these people that are like, should I drop this player and take a chance? I think that you're getting a little crazy sometimes when you're getting into them scenarios, but, if you have the taxi space, if you're a bad team that has roster space, or if you have a bunch of retired guys where you just have space in general, right? Because sometimes you inherit orphans with some older players that are done or injured or, just worthless, then you can add them. But roster space is so precious, right? Like if you're a good team or a team that really can't afford to be adding people like this, I think you just kind of sit on your hands, right? But like if you are a bad team, middle of the road team, want to shake things up, have the space, I'm all for it because you just don't know. And, you brought up the Dallas situation. George Pickens, who knows what's going to happen there. You know how I feel about this whole thing. It's just kind of all roads lean towards this, contract deal with what's going on with him. I mean, really, when it comes down to it, that's the thing to me in his personality that matters the most. That's going to inflate his ego. Will Dallas do it? We don't know. So, I mean, yes, there could be eventually a wide receiver 2 spot open here. But, like you said, Flournoy, I mean, hey, you got those people that are Flournoy people. I will say that kind of gets you a little bit shook, though, right? Because this kid at least proved that he could come out and do a little bit of something. Maybe that will, threaten him for that wide receiver 3 spot, even if not, right away, if he continues to build throughout preseason practice and training camp, maybe he can make some noise and threaten him for that. But I think you agree with me, Bob, as far as like this kid goes, just like his whole background, his whole metrics as far as being a prospect. I just don't think I could really give up much for him other than free roster space if I had the space. And that's the only way I'm doing it. Do you agree with me when it comes to that?
Yeah, I'm not making any trades for the guy. I probably am not drafting him in a rookie draft or whatever. I mean, unless we're talking about an insane like 8 deep offensive only league or something like that, and you just got like a 25-man taxi squad or something along those lines. But yeah, I if in a little bit, like if you've promoted some guys off your taxi squad or whatever, and you just got this hole and you've looked around and you're like, oh well, there's this Camden Brown guy that showed a little bit of flash or whatever in the preseason. Yeah, I'm not opposed, but again, this is one of those things where I'm like, don't just chase that hype. Number one, it's Cowboys hype, right? Everybody's got a Cowboys fan in their league. Oh, Camden Brown, the next, Des Bryant. What, like, stop talking, and then on top of that, you've got, it just is what it is. And it's like, there's still a little bit of flux and stink on this team, right? If any of the things that we hope to be positive things, George Pickens sticking around, kind of not showing that he's like aggravated by the tag or whatever, it looks good right now. But if something were to go haywire, this guy could end up getting thrown into duty. You know what I mean? And it's Flournoy, and then there's another guy, Kavontae Turpin. But like Turpin, I think is more just a special teams cat than he is, a wide receiver. Somebody you're going to throw on the field. So, he might, if they need to try and play catch up and they do 4 wide receiver sets, he might be on the field. It's not anybody I'm going to go grab and be like, ooh, lightning bolt. It would be an absolute lightning bolt to do anything, in all honesty. If he ends the year with 5 catches, I'll be surprised.
For sure. And I like what you said about Turpin too, right? Like he is more that gadgety special teams type player. And I'm not saying he can't hit a big play every once in a while, because he can. The guy's electric, but he's just not that purebred wide receiver. Like, I think this kid has a chance to maybe develop into something like that. But I'll just say this in closing. Like, this is the perfect player, too. Like, if I had him rostered, luckily enough, right, and I'm trying to get into a veteran player that I like, being a contender or something, if someone wanted him as a throw-in, this would be a perfect time to be like, okay, ride that hype wave, put him in the trade, go ahead and get the player you want, right? Because sometimes, you could take advantage of that type stuff. Like you said, look at the Cowboys fans. We all got them in every league, right? Like, it's just kind of commonplace.
It's like a plague.
It's like the plague, Bob says. I won't go that far. You know me, Bob. I'm kind of more optimistic and positive. But, I love the things you have to say, giving these guys a hard time. But I will say this. I think that it's good to see. We'll see what he can do in the upcoming games. If I have the space, I'll add him, but I'm not going to go overboard with it, right? Just keep that in the back of your mind. Yeah. If you have the taxi spots, you have the roster space, I'm like Bob. Sure, give the kid a shot. We'll see what he's got. If not, don't make any drastic moves. But needless to say, it was very impressive. Good first game in his career there for the preseason. Okay, Bob, number 2 player that we're talking about here tonight, who is that going to be?
Well, I'm going to throw a curveball in this. I'm going to talk about more of like a situation, which covers two young players. So staying in that old NFC East, we got Jackson Dart and Malachi Fields, right? So Malachi Fields catches all three of his targets for, I think it was 34 yards and a score or whatever, and supposedly that looked really good. But in the process, Jackson Dart gets sacked twice in a preseason game. Like, what is this team doing? I mean, if you want the guy to be your franchise QB, man, you got to do better keeping him upright. And it's like, yes, he did not get a concussion, which they took him off the field to evaluate him. And, he comes back and he throws the strike to Malachi Fields or whatever. And like the guy that sacked him, or one of them they were talking about, he was free rushing safety Jay Ward. I don't know that I recall Jay Ward being a player in the league. Like, that sounds terrible. I can't honestly think of the guy unless he's a rookie and I just didn't know. So I've not heard of Jay Ward. So it's like this guy was a free rushing safety that came across and just absolutely smoked, your franchise quarterback. I think that is a lot. We should expect that a lot or whatever out of this Matt Nagy offense. Of course, they scored 10 points. They're competitive or whatever. Of course, it's preseason, so it's not like we're really going to count anything that's happened, but it does give you some kind of hope for Malachi Fields, but it also gives me some kind of heebie-jeebies for Jackson Dart. Like, if that's, I'm trying to be positive and at least give some story to it too. Like, we can't have the poor kid get smashed, whether or not he's creating a rapport with the rookie or not. So we got a little bit of a rookie uptick and a little bit of a second-year quarterback like, oh, crap, let's not get him killed.
Yeah, and it's very interesting from the fact of, like, okay, we've talked about this Giants wide receiver room. Like, we were all kind of puzzled and disappointed they let Wan'Dale Robinson walk, right? I mean, like, he's been very serviceable for them, been very reliable. But hey, maybe they knew they had something in this kid. Like I said, it's too early to tell. We're not going to sit here and say, yes, we're all super in on it or anything like that. But they desperately need wide receiving help, Bob. We talked about this a lot. I mean, they brought in these Tales of the Crypt type guys. I mean, Juju Smith-Schuster and like these people that I'm surprised they got even a look, to be honest with you. I mean, after being, kind of deactivated from football here and there and not really playing much, you think that they would try to go young. So at least it was nice to see a young player make some plays. And, I mean, really looking at this, like, we know Darnell Mooney's there, right? Like, to me, though, I will say this about Malachi Fields, and I want to get your thoughts, but, like, is he the kind of guy now that, like, that's all you got to beat out? Like, I mean, there is a window here, like, and we talk about opportunity, right? We talk about, opportunity and value, those type of things when we're talking about Dynasty. There isn't much standing between him and maybe getting a real shot at being the wide receiver 2 on this team and, being behind Malik Neighbors. And we know Malik Neighbors might not be ready to go early in the season as well. So that could benefit him too. So, I mean, I'm just looking at Malachi Fields right now as like, okay, the stock's going up a little bit, right? Like as far as just like based off of, getting on the field. Now, like you said, we're concerned about the Giants and Matt Nagy. There's no question about that. But, like, even as a futures, like, if you're a rebuilder and you have him, this definitely got to give you a good feeling. And one thing we know about Darnell Mooney, he's a guy that can't really stay healthy, right? Like, we've seen it in the past. Like, he's not someone that really is that reliable. We talk about it, best abilities, availability, and he's not available too much at times. So, I'm just saying, I'm not going to sit here and trade a bunch for the kid either or, try to sit there and think he's the second coming. But there is an opportunity, and he flashed, and you got to take advantage, right? When you're given the opportunities, you got to take advantage. He showed that he was, at least in the game, few catches, some decent yards, a touchdown. I think it was like 3 for 34 and a touchdown or something like that. The Giants need receiving help desperately, Bob. And, just looking at this, like I said, if I have him, I think that you could say as well, that there's a pathway here, potentially at some part of the season where he could get on the field. Whether or not the Giants' offense is going to be any good or not, like we worry about, is one thing or another. But I think that there could be a pathway on the field. Do you think the same?
Yeah, for sure. Like, I mean, like what you said, the Tales of the Crypt guys, being the secondary options or whatever, like Malachi Fields, and I can't remember if it was a second round or a third round. I think it was a third round pick, but like Notre Dame product or whatever. I think that we could be a little excited about what Malachi Fields, is showing so far. Week one, of course, so like let's not get all twisted. But I think if you haven't had your draft yet and you got a stray second-round pick or whatever, go ahead. I think that's probably a fair price for the kid.
Yeah, right. I mean, if you do have that late 26 rookie draft, some people like to do the rookie draft separate of the startup drafts, Bob, too. We know that, right? So, like, as you said, I mean, I just think based off opportunity early on, you could maybe spend a little higher pick. I agree with you, and I believe he was a third-rounder, Bob. I'm almost certain of that. If not, it was early fourth round. But this guy was, real close to being a back-end day 2 pick, early day 3 pick. And we'll see what he's got. I don't fear any of them other Giants wide receiving options enough to make me that concerned. So we'll see. I'm like you. I'm not going to get too far ahead of myself. It's early in preseason, but a very nice game for the kid where a team needs receiving help. But let's go over now to the next player we're going to be bringing up here tonight. Bob, who is that going to be?
Well, I'm torn between two guys, but we'll have some honorable mention stuff. So I'm just going to go with the guy that's probably needed the most is De'Zhaun Stribling, and he actually played a pretty good game. He was thrown to 8 times, 7 catches or whatever, 63 yards, ends up catching a relatively long, like 31, 32 something yard touchdown or whatever. And you want to talk about a team that needs somebody to step up. Let's hope that the substation doesn't get to De'Zhaun Stribling, because they are in bad shape as far as the health of their wide receiver core. And I mean, I know Ty, veteran, every player, he's excited for the opportunity for Mike Evans, but man, I just don't. I mean, if the substation joke is even remotely real, I mean, it's very much trending to that. It's got some kind of reality to it, man. We don't need Mike Evans, ruining the rest of his career or whatever. And I mean, they signed him to a 3-year deal, I think, or whatever. I mean, I think it's probably more like a 1-year deal with a ton of dead money at the end, because they can afford to do it. But like, he's still got to have a running mate. He cannot be the only guy, and neither can Christian McCaffrey. That they both need somebody to take something off of him. And apparently, he showed out pretty well, strong hands, big catch radius, and things like that. So it's like, I think that this is a guy that, and again, one of these late draft, if you are a late drafter or whatever, I'm not afraid to use one of my, let's say, anything past 7, 8, maybe, rookie pick or whatever on De'Zhaun Stribling, especially if I'm wide receiver needy. And I think, I mean, this all depends on your belief in Brock Purdy too, but I think Brock Purdy can be a facilitator. Whoever's alive out there and running routes, I think he can get the ball to him.
Well, let me just say this, Bob, right? Like, I've been a big proponent of, this guy just because, the fact that Kyle Shanahan, I say it all the time, Sean McVay, these type of coaches, whenever they pick a player, my antenna goes up. I mean, it has to, right? Like, these guys know how to use these players. They have certain reasons why they want them. Now, it always doesn't work out, but now you just tell me, would you feel better about, drafting a guy for San Francisco with Kyle Shanahan or drafting a guy with the Cleveland Browns right now? Right? Like, I mean,
or the Jets.
Or the Jets. Yeah, or the Jets, right? So, I mean, yes, nope. And that's a valid point. Like, I think that the lesson that's going to be learned here very shortly is some of these players like the Denzel Bostons, the Casey Concepcions, like these type of players that are going between that 1.9 to 112 to 202 range, like anywhere in there, like you're passing up on a guy like De'Zhaun Stribling. And again, like you said, Bob, there's going to be opportunity there. Ricky Pearsall already done for the year. He's done. He's out. We know that. Mike Evans, he's struggling with this hamstring stuff again. And in the fact that it's in San Francisco, like you said, even more alarming. So, like, someone's going to have to step up and play the position. Now, can he stay healthy? That's a big question mark. Jawan Jennings is out the door. Like, this wide receiver room is completely barren, right? So, the fact that Kyle Shanahan liked him, he obviously has a plan on how to use them. But, what we've seen was very solid. And, he's going to fit into this system. Like, this is a perfect system for a De'Zhaun Stribling, Bob. Like, we know Kyle Shanahan likes to run a variation of the West Coast style offense. And what kind of offense is that? High percentage, nothing crazy super far down the field. You like your shifty type receivers. Like, this is kind of perfect for him. And you look at Brock Purdy, like, he's not a guy that's going to whale it 60, 70 yards down the field all the time either, right? Like, that's just not who he is. So I think it's a good match. I think it's an underrated match. And you know, I will just go on the record to say this, right? If Mike Evans comes back healthy or not, I would not be shocked. As long as Stribling can make it through the season, I would not be shocked to see a wide receiver 3 performance out of De'Zhaun Stribling this year. I would not be shocked whatsoever, just because of the fact that, like we talked, there's nobody there. This is a good offense. It's still going to be a competitive team. What the Rams did was tremendous. They're going to be tough to stop. But Kyle Shanahan and the San Francisco 49ers team, they're going to put out a respectable product, right? And even if something happens to Brock Purdy, we kind of like Mac Jones as a backup, right? Like, so they got a decent, solid backup there, Mac Jones. I just think that you look through the tea leaves of this, I think that this is favoring him so much more. And I'll just go on the record as saying, Bob, I think what you said was really, bold, and I don't think a lot of people would say it. If someone picked him at 108 or 109, I would not fault them in the least in this type of draft. I mean, I really wouldn't. Like, if you really needed wide receiver help as a contender and, like, I want points right now, I think that you might be a little better off than you think that you could be. So I like that, Bob. Anything to close it out with here?
I would not be surprised if he's not the highest scoring wide receiver in this class. It wouldn't shock me at all. You think about, first off, they got a huge need. We just talked about that, ad nauseum, right? And then on top of that, like, look at the other competitors. You got 2 guys basically ruined in Cleveland. You got 1 guy and, 1 wide receiver. So 1 wide receiver basically ruined with the Jets. So there's 3 of your, what you would have thought. And then Mekhi Lemon, like, not only is he dealing with the hamstring issue he had in college, but, like, they don't have a very high-powered offense, I think is what I want to say. It's like it's more of a grind you down and, throw in spots type offense. So it's like he might not even get, a whole lot of targets anyway, even as the number 2 quote-unquote wide receiver there. So then Tate might, be the big competition because he's probably the number 1, but we're still expecting a lot of growth from Cam Ward. We're expecting a lot of growth from Carnell Tate. I feel like I'm missing somebody.
Jordan Tyson, the injury man.
Jordan Tyson, yeah, he's already injured again too. So it's like, I mean, it wouldn't shock me. It really wouldn't, especially if, like, Mike Evans needs either a breather or takes a couple games off. Like, you could just see Stribling out there with whoever the hodgepodge of backup wide receivers there are after that. Like, I can't even think of a 3rd or 4th guy on their team, to be honest with you. Oh, Deebo Samuel. Yeah, right. It's like we're super excited about that. Like, I don't know, man. It's a triage group out there for sure. Whatever you're going to – you got the strap on your medical kit to go out to San Francisco.
That's for sure. And let me just say this, right? Like, I mean, like, what is it to get the Jacoby Myers numbers, right? Like 5 catches for 50 yards, 5 catches for 60 yards. Like, this kid could do it in this offense. Like, I really think he could, and I'm like you, Bob. Don't be shocked if he posts a lot better season. And then people are going to be like, man, I could have got him at 208, 207, right? And, I took Jordan Tyson or I took, Casey Concepcion. And it's like that stuff happens all the time, especially in a weak draft class, right? You just look through the tea leaves. And I'm just telling all them people out there now, like you said, we're doing their rookie draft separate of the startup, or they're doing a super late rookie draft for 2026, take this guy a little bit higher, and I don't think you'll be disappointed. I think you'll get a decent return, at least this season, right? We'll see what happens next season, but if you're a contending team needing points, I think he could do decent for you and a lot better than most think. I really do. So, okay, Bob, next player that we want to talk about here, who we got on the ledger?
Jacoby Lane. So, this is another team that could honestly – use another wide receiver. He does a pretty good job or whatever with the Declan Doyle offense. The thing I think that kind of sticks out is Lamar Jackson likened his catch radius to the range of DeAndre Hopkins and Odell Beckham in his in-game interview. So apparently Lamar Jackson likes the guy. So if Lamar Jackson's going to like this guy, 3 receptions, 38 yards, an opening touch, scored on the opening touchdown or whatever. USC product, right? If we have this laundry list of USC guys that seem to be successful. Some of them kind of come out of nowhere. Most of them don't. Most of them, if they're good, but like this guy is probably, his stats coming out of college are probably hampered by the fact that Mekhi Lemon was a short area target guy and just got peppered all the time. So I digress there, but like I think that if Lamar Jackson kind of locks in on you or whatever, I mean, are we excited about Rashad Bateman? Like the dude's like never really put it all together. And then like we've only got Mark Andrews at tight end. We got a totally new offensive coordinator and a system. I think that there's an opportunity for this guy due to Zay Flowers gets, all this money or whatever. But, like, it's sure nice to have a running mate in the wide receiver core. And Jacoby Lane or whatever is to get he might be a little bit more of a deep threat than Flowers, but I'm not 100% sure if that's correct. I know he's a little bit bigger dude, I think, than Flowers. But so it's like, I'm reading the inside track of what Lamar Jackson thinks that he can throw it to the guy and he's going to find the way to catch the ball. That's promising.
Well, and you look at a team like Baltimore, they need more high-quality red zone threats. I mean, they didn't really – I think that was a thing that hampered them a little bit last season too. Like, I mean, you can say what you want. Like all we talked about is Lamar, eventually maybe losing – his speed and athleticism a little bit, and it could be disastrous for him. And I think it still is going to be, but like one thing that can help that is like what's the easiest thing to do down there in the red zone? Throw it up to the guy can go get it, right? Like, and they really didn't have anybody like that really last season. I know they had the Likeleys and the Andrewses, but they're a tight end. It's a little bit different. I mean, they're not that sneaky. You put them isolated out on the outside one-on-one. You can throw that fade route, that 50-50 ball. You really can't see that much out of both of them tight ends. So they needed something like this, and, I think that they recognized it. I mean, they got their separator, chain-moving type receiver in Zay Flowers. They didn't have that. Like you said, Rashad Bateman's a, exciting big play guy every once in the blue moon, but he's always hurt. I mean, the guy has ability, but he's never available, so he makes him pretty much worthless. And, we talk about this team wanting to run the ball too, so I mean, they can always do that. That's one thing the Ravens have done historically well. So, I just think that this need was added by them. I think it was a necessary add, and you mentioned USC. I like USC wide receivers. We talk about some of these colleges. They just can produce them better. LSU, Ohio State, USC. Like, it's funny how you can just rattle those schools off as far as like, okay, we know that they could be a factory, right? Like, they could be a factory at the position. And, yes, they're going to have misses from time to time, and not every player from that college is going to work out. But, historically, we've seen it's been a lot higher hit rate from them schools. So, look, I look at Jacoby Lane. I think that where you're getting him is perfect. Like, I mean, he's still that guy. Like you talked about taking Stribling higher. Like, I think Stribling's more dynamic. I think he's in an offense that's going to need to rely on maybe getting his help a lot more than what Baltimore would get out of Jacoby Lane. So, like, I look at Jacoby Lane. Where you're getting him, I think it's a very good deal because I think at worst you're going to get probably a guy that could turn into the touchdown guy for this team. And like I said, they need that. I like the pedigree from USC. So I do like Jacoby Lane. It was nice to see. I know Wiz was excited with what he's seen out of him. And, it wasn't just in this game. I mean, hearing stuff about him in training camp as well. So, it's kind of like more adding fuel to that fire. But, I just look at it, Bob. I think that I'm interested. I think that it's a good sign. But we know the Ravens, right? How much are they going to be really willing to throw the ball, right? And they did pay Zay Flowers, as you mentioned. But as far as, like, I think if you draft him, you got at least a decent depth add to your team. I think it's a decent depth add, and I think it'll go decently well. I don't think he'll be a total bust. I think this kid will be a solid contributor.
Yeah, I think Stribling you could probably count on a little more the whole season.
Right.
And Jacoby Lane, I think, might be the one guy that, like, if you got him toward the end of the year, it might just be lights out, Although, again, you're absolutely correct. This is still the Baltimore Ravens. This is still run the ball and play defense. So Mentor, he's a defensive guy. He's not going to, like, hey, let's just pound up the scoreboard. He's not Ben Johnson. You know what I'm saying? It is what it is there. And I think that, just having more weapons for Jackson to throw to is going to be paramount or whatever for this team. I think that there's times when, they certainly want to be able to run the ball the whole time, but they also know that the Yeti or whatever, Derrick Henry or whatever, the king he's still, 31, 32. Like, man, even though like statistics show as the year goes on, Derrick Henry gets tougher to tackle. And I think it's because everybody's getting hurt. You know what I mean? It's not just Derrick Henry keeps his body in some kind of elite physical condition. The only thing that I think slowed him down at all last year was his fumbles. But they're going to have to do a little bit more, I think, to keep the Yeti a little fresher. I want to see this offense open up a little bit more, especially if Lamar Jackson is going to keep being a premier quarterback. He's got to start throwing the ball more and more effectively, because the legs are just going to give out. We talk about this a lot. Eventually the legs just don't last.
Yeah, and that comes with any athlete, right? It just happens. I mean, over time it will happen, and you can't lose all your juice, right? Like, and that's the thing, right? Like, will Lamar go from being that top 5 quarterback to 12 or something? That's bad enough, right? But, like, if he goes from 5 to, like, 18 or 17, like, that's catastrophic, right? So, hopefully he can find out. And, you mentioned Derrick Henry trying to, take a little bit of the load off him. Like, again, like, maybe this will help with Lane being a touchdown guy. They won't have to feed it to him every single time down there in the red zone. They could throw that 50-50 ball they really couldn't throw last year. So, I mean, I do think it was a fit that they need him, and he's someone that I am interested in, right? I just think he's more of that probably flexy type guy if he hits his ceiling, but there's nothing wrong with that because you're drafting someone, and if they hit in that regard, especially late second round, early third round, if they hit in that regard, you're getting a guy that's going to be at least a solid contributor to your team, and you can't ask for anything more getting players that late in rookie drafts. So I think a good one to keep an eye on is Jacoby Lane. I'm with you, Bob, but okay. Last but not least, before we hit the honorable mentions, who are we talking about now, Bob?
Well, I think we would be remiss if we didn't talk about the guy we talked about just slightly before we started the show, and that's Ty Simpson. Sean McVay did start Stetson Bennett in this game, but I don't think he was in there very long. Simpson completes 21 of 25 passes for 190 yards and 2 touchdowns, both to the running back, but whatever. But they were talking about how McVay, tested the quarterback, giving him some, throws that are not throws or whatever you're just going to push on the rookie quarterback. But they're like, hey, look, you're the number 13 overall pick. Hey, let's make sure you're the goods. And, of course, rollout, make sure he was throwing the ball on the rollouts and then, balls on the move. And then they made sure that he threw a screen to the right, which I have no idea why that was such a tough thing. You would think I guess it's because you got to twist your whole body around if you're right-handed and fire a quick throw to the tight end through a tight window in the end zone. So that was the things that they mentioned that they were making sure that he put on his plate, and of course, he passed every test. I mean, we wouldn't really be talking about him if he didn't. Now, don't get me wrong here, right? We're not talking about he played against Seattle's number 1 overall defense, or he didn't play Seattle in this game, but the Kansas City Chiefs, it's not like he was going up against the ones. He's going up against the back end, things. But this is a guy that I think if anybody would have told you that he was going to go 13 or whatever to the Rams, they would have been like, made a bunch of money, because I don't think that it was even thought of or even predicted. There was times when I heard that he would go early, but then there were times I was like, look, this isn't the draft for that. We're just going to, maybe he'll get taken in the back end of the round. I think there was a lot of talk of him being like a Steelers target in the 20s, right? So, let's let draft stock go, right? But we know that Stafford or whatever is on the back end of his career. If anything happens to Stafford, do you think this team with the Super Bowl window is going to want to trust Stetson Bennett? I don't think so. Like, it is what it is. Like, yes, Bennett's been around for a long time, but I think he's just a clipboard dude. I think that's exactly who Bennett is. I don't think he's ever going to be even in a start in cases of emergency. I mean, I guess if it was like week 1 or whatever, you don't really want to throw your guy out to the wolves, right? But I also think that this is a team with aspirations of winning the Super Bowl. And if if for whatever reason Simpson were to get thrown into action, I think that they may be okay, at least with him being able to function in the game plan. Now, the game speed is going to change when you're facing ones, right? And we got a lot of the preseason left. But I think where I want to go with this, and I think you mentioned it pre-show, is like, if you took this guy at all, you were not in any belief that you were going to have to worry about seeing anything. Well, this has got to be a shining light. You know, you got to be like, oh, ho, ho, maybe I really do have something, you know. And we were just talking about it with Lamar Jackson. Like, his fantasy shine is going to fall off if he loses his running game. Now, we're not sitting here going, oh, Ty Simpson, the running quarterback. No, we're not. But, like, I, for one, am a guy that prefers to have, like, 3 or 4 guys that are in the 12 to 17 range and my quarterback room on my dynasty rosters. And then I can just pick matchups, because I think guys that can stand in the pocket and sling the ball all around are going to be – you can't tell me in 3 years that if Sean McVay's still there and Ty Simpson's the quarterback, you're not going to be tickled freaking pink to start him against the Arizona Cardinals. And yes, in 3 years, the Cardinals are still going to suck. So, you know, that's, you know, on top of whoever else, like, you're going to have those options. You know, we just saw a basic pocket quarterback win the Super Bowl. You know, our fantasy rosters are completely different than NFL. You know, it is what it is. I mean, how many Super Bowls has Lamar Jackson got?
Exactly. Yep. I mean, the flash looks good, but, I mean, does it get it done from an NFL standpoint sometimes? And look at Josh Allen. Same thing, right?
Yes. And, I mean, it is what it is. Again, it's nice to have it as a tool, but you don't want it to be something you're relying on. And I think that's the problem with both the quarterbacks we just mentioned. I think they rely heavily on their legs to be productive football players. Now, eventually it's going to work out, right? I mean, there's going to be some quarterback. I mean, I'd have to sit here and bang my brain or whatever, but I mean, I guess if we wanted to say Hurts was like the last running quarterback or whatever to win a Super Bowl, but like, I don't think that was really on Hurts, right? I mean, that wasn't like it was Hurts' legs or whatever that got him to the bowl. And, you know, I mean, that I think he might have had 15 touchdowns or 14 touchdowns in the regular season. So don't want to hear what I'm not saying, but until they brought Saquon Barkley in, they weren't, you know, super productive there. So it is what it is. But I'm excited for the potential of Ty Simpson at this point. I never thought I would say that, but like at this point, you know, just seeing that he is, let's just put it, and I don't know if I should say impressing, but he's pleased McVay. You know, if all you did is your first time out there, you didn't piss McVay off, then that's a win. So that's my stance. Oh,
and let me say this, Bob. When we're talking Ty Simpson, let's just go back in the time machine a little bit, right? Like we did the Dynasty DNA quarterback show where we were talking about these rookies. And the first thing I said was, I like the kid as far as like you could see he had those flashes of ability, right? Very raw, though. Very raw prospect. And I said, he has to go to a team where he can sit, wait, and learn. Like, I thought, man, if he goes to Cleveland, he's going to be ruined. If he goes to the Jets, he's going to be ruined. Like, you could sense that coming. You knew it could be a part of that. Them teams always have a way to doing it, no matter who it is. But you look at this for Ty Simpson, it don't get much better. The raw physical ability and talents, a lot of them are there. You could check the boxes, right? Like, a lot of that's there. The thing that he needed was more experience, more time, and doesn't only get that, he got the best you could ask for by going to the Rams, sitting behind Matt Stafford, who's an elite quarterback. We know this. I mean, he won the Super Bowl, has all kinds of records as far as, you know, different odds and ends in different parts of games and passing stats. Like, this guy is a hugely productive thrower of the football. And then Sean McVay, you know, on top of it all, the coaching genius, right? The offensive-minded genius. Like, if you have Ty Simpson, congratulations. Like, and I'm not sitting here going to induct him into the Hall of Fame, but, like, I don't think you drafted a bust because, like, all you know, and, you know, people just don't like to be patient, Bob. Like, I have so many teams that are drafting in rookie drafts this past draft. The picks I couldn't get rid of, 109 to 112. You have any guesses on who I took in Superflex leagues, I took Ty Simpson. Why? Because, okay, I just had a feeling like this was going to happen, and I know it's against backups, but, like, you couldn't ask for a better start for this kid. Like, he built confidence. Like, I mean, it's just like building blocks, right? Like, he's going to get to sit there and learn, continue to get better, and then he just keeps stacking blocks on top of one another. Like, he come out, looked very good. Like you said, pleased McVay. At least he was like, okay, I was happy with what I saw. I mean, we got some stuff to still work on, but happy with what I saw. And I'm just telling you right now, like, as long as you were willing to be patient and you took this kid in that range of your rookie drafts, I think you probably at least got a quarterback 2 on your hands at worst going forward when he does get the reins on this team. And, that's what it's all about. Value at Superflex. I couldn't believe how many people wanted to pass on him, when you're taking players like Omar Cooper and Casey Concepcion, like in these shitty landing spots of Cleveland and the Jets. And there is Ty Simpson, raw prospect that checks a lot of boxes, and he went to a team like the Rams. So I took advantage of it. I hope a lot of people took advantage of it. And I'm not sitting here, like I said, ready to duck the kid into the Hall of Fame, but I just don't see him being a total bust. I don't know what your thoughts are, Bob, before we close it out.
Well, the one thing I wanted to add that I was waiting for you to see if you said it is I think the one thing about the situation is not only is he sitting behind Stafford, and not only does he have Sean McVay, the quarterback he's sitting behind is on a clock, right? Sure, sitting behind Patrick Mahomes could be a very good learning experience,
right?
But Patrick Mahomes has got a long time before he's gone. So you get the learning experience of being behind the stud QB, but in at least probably 2 years, probably 2 years maximum, Matthew Stafford is going to retire. So you've just got, your window is going to still be available for you to put the guy on the field while he's still on his rookie contract. And if you got that, you can add a lot of players. And yes, Devontae Adams is going to retire too, probably with Stafford. And if Aaron Donald comes back, he's going to retire again with Stafford. You know what I mean? But at that point or whatever, you still got a cheap rookie deal. And of course, you're talking about a team that barely ever, brings in like money players. They'll absolutely just, find some guys, and it'll be nice for the player to be in that situation.
Absolutely.
It's kind of a dream come true for us guys that preach quarterback development, because, finally maybe the one head coach that everybody wants to be and be like is going to be like, hey, we need to develop a freaking QB, because if they do it, then that would be awesome.
Oh, 100%, Bob. And the last thing I want to add is look at Green Bay. Right? Like, you could learn these lessons. Like, if you would have been way back in Dynasty leagues, way back, like if you're a real old OG, you could have drafted Aaron Rodgers, right? You could have had him sitting there, and look how that would have turned out for you. Even look at Jordan Love, right? I mean, I get it. Jordan Love's got a lot to prove, but still, like, you would just be happy as hell to have that depth in your quarterback room, having a Jordan Love. Now you have a chance to do the same thing with Ty Simpson, and it's just like I always say with Dynasty, patience is a virtue. Like, if you are patient and you make the right picks and be like, hey, you know what? I'm not going to sit here and tease myself. Go ahead and get this guy, and I think that it's a solid pick. Sean McVay, Kyle Shanahan, these type of coaches, like I said, they take these guys, my antenna goes up, and I think it's well done by the Rams. They're smart enough to see the future, and like you said, I don't think you have to wait more than a couple years. I think that the reins will be turned over to him. I think it'll be coming, in the next couple seasons. So just wait it out, and I think you at least got a solid asset for your Dynasty roster there with a player like Ty Simpson. Okay, Bob, honorable mentions. I know you want to mention them real quick here before we close out the show.
So just a few quick hitters. Caleb Douglas, Miami wide receiver or whatever, was on the field basically with Mike Washington. Basically, I think they were the only two that really received targets. Jalen Reagor might have got a couple targets from Malik Willis or whatever, but it's clear that he's going to be part of the wide receiver discussion or whatever for that trash heap of wide receivers. So Drew Aller managed to have an okay game or whatever from a third round pick or whatever. Of course, I'm not certain what like team he was playing against as far as like what level that they were putting out against him. Fernando Mendoza, they talked like his mechanics were sound, things that they were kind of worried about, things like from playing inside the pocket that he didn't do a whole lot of from Indiana or whatever, tended to be, above average to decent with, no mechanical flaws there. It wasn't like he was stumbling all over himself and looking dumb, which if anybody in Raiders don't look dumb, that's a plus, right? So then Jonah Coleman or whatever, I figured I'd talk about one running back anyway. Apparently, like I think it was a 6-yard average or whatever, and he looked the part. And, Peyton can find miracles in a lot of places. And Jonah Coleman was not a bad college back. So those are kind of the guys I wanted to mention.
No, I like it, Bob. And just to follow that up, Will Howard played okay, too, for the Steelers, right? So I will say this, like, in Superflex leagues, I mean, I'm not the biggest Drew Howard cheerleader. Like, I watched his film at Penn State. He does do a lot of stupid shit, especially in crunch time. But, again, coaching matters, right? Can McCarthy let this kid sit and maybe fix him up a little bit? Because, look, you look at Drew Howard, Bob, like, he was a 5-star recruit. All the checks are there. It's just, can you develop him into what you want him to be? And the other good thing is, hey, maybe it was good for him to be a third-round pick and to sit this year and then go into camp next year and see if he could take it up a notch. But I will say this, at least for his confidence, that was a game much needed. So we'll see what they could do, the Steelers. But and again, another quarterback on a ticking clock. You mentioned Matt Stafford, Aaron Rodgers is another one. We know he's done after this year, right? So maybe some value there if you can add them players still to your team via late-round draft pick or via taxi squad or just off the waiver wire there. But, wow, Bob, what a great episode, right? I mean, getting closer to the NFL season, a couple things we want to bring up. The Dynasty DNA kickoff special, guys. We will be doing a Dynasty DNA kickoff special where we're going to be having hot takes. We're going to be talking about player flag plants, Super Bowl predictions, all kinds of fun stuff. Maybe we'll get on each other's cases a little bit. There's a good chance of that going to happen. But we're going to be getting that done right before the season, right? Monday and Wednesday before the season. Those shows will be releasing right at the beginning of September. You're going to have to tune into that. It's going to be a lot of fun. If you guys are enjoying the content here on Spotify, Apple Pod, Stitcher, Amazon, any of the big podcasting platforms, and you haven't yet, please follow and 5-star the show. It greatly helps. We so appreciate it. If you guys want to check out Dynasty DNA on YouTube, subscribe to Dynasty DNA on YouTube. We'd love to have you over there. Make sure to follow Dynasty DNA on TikTok, Facebook, and follow us on X at Dynasty DNA_. Listen, I know I speak for Big Culture Bob and everyone here at the Dynasty DNA Network when we say, hope Monday starts out well for you. Good luck in all your players. Hope they play well in preseason week 2 and everyone stays healthy. But we'll see you all on the next episode of The Culture Shock.